I taste the static in my chest. Whenever panic flickers like a busted neon sign behind my ribs at night, I keep pretending I am calm, but every shallow breath is counting down like a timer glued beneath the table. I hear my heartbeat knocking at the door, rude and insistent, begging me to finally answer instead of hiding. I scroll through glowing screens for comfort, swallowing strangers' lives like sugar, but the aftertaste always burns my tongue. I replay every careless word I said today until each syllable turns into a weapon pointed at my throat. I tell myself I am overreacting, but the tremor in my hands keeps underlining the sentence that something feels wrong. I pace the room like a ghost, learning my body, mapping the exits, memorizing every loose board in the floor. I wanna run away from this feeling, yet it clings like smoke, curling tighter every time I ignore it. Maybe the shaking is not madness, but a siren dragging my eyes back to the boundaries I keep crossing. Maybe the dread is a low red light in the corner, whispering that I've stayed here far too long. I start to ask my fear polite questions, tracing its edges instead of pushing its face into the dark. It answers with memories I buried, nights when I said yes while every cell in me screamed no. As the room spins slower, I feel my pulse drop from a sprint into a weary, watchful walk. I realize the alarm was never trying to hurt me, only to drag me out of the burning house. So I stand barefoot in the doorway of myself, smoke in my lungs, finally listen to the noise. I promise my shaking body I will not mute it again when it is only trying to keep me alive. I flirt with disaster like it is an old lover, tracing its jaw every time life begins to feel strangely calm. Deadlines loom and I paint my nails instead, watching colors dry where urgency should be clawing at my spine. I leave messages unopened, plans unanswered, piling soft excuses into a fortress I will later call my prison. Procrastination drapes herself across my couch, glamorous and heavy, purring promises of rest that somehow never restore me. Underneath the velvet lies a bright red button, glowing with every chance I quietly sabotage before it can bloom. I tell myself I'm lazy, broken, addicted to the edge where everything almost falls apart. But when I listen closer, I hear a smaller voice asking who will catch me if I actually leave. Failure feels safer when I choose it first, when I can say I never really tried at all. My fear of my own power wears a silk dress, whispering that success will only amplify my loneliness. So I stall and circle, dance with distraction, acting surprised when the ground gives out again beneath my feet. The wreckage becomes proof that my darkest story was right, that I am built only for watch what it has been trying to protect me from. It shows me memories of cruel laughter, of applause that turned to knives the moment I show something true. My self-destruct button softens its glow, less frantic now, just a reminder to move more slowly, more awake. I begin taking tiny risks, quiet yeses, choosing progress and crumbs instead of perfection or spectacular ruin. The velvet still tempts me, but my hands will learn new habits, reaching for the light switch instead. I wake up 3 minutes before every goodbye, heart racing like it hurt, footsteps leaving in a past life. Even good news feels suspicious, sweetness laced with the aftertaste of something that will hurt when it is gone. I memorize the way people say my name right before they vanish, replaying it as warning sirens in future rooms. When someone is kind, I start counting days until they forget. Drafting breakup speeches between casual texts and memes. My abandonment alarm never sleeps, chiming at the slightest delay, turning normal distance into evidence of incoming disaster. I test lovers with tiny withdrawals, pulling back to see if they follow, then hating them for passing every exam. Say I think, but my mouth says I am fine. Go whatever, pretending nonchalance as my chest caves inward. The child in me keeps a suitcase packed, emotional passport stamped with every time the door closed without explanation. She tugs in my sleeve whenever someone is late, whispering stories where I am always the one left behind. The noise is exhausting, a constant ring whose frequency only I seem to register beneath everyday conversations. One night, instead of silencing it, I ask the alarm what exactly it is trying to save me from. It shows me empty chairs, unread messages, the heavy echo of my own voice in rooms too quiet. It believes solitude hurts less when chosen, even if the choice is scripted by old ghosts instead of present truth. I hold my own, shaking hands and stay, just stay when the urge to disappear claws up my The alarm keeps ringing, but lower now, more like a metronome reminding me to breathe between waves of fear. I let someone touch the handle of my hidden suitcase, not to unpack it yet, only to know it exists. Tonight I turn off every overhead light and let the room glow only from screens and distant city windows. All my forbidden feelings gather like a SETI after hours party, uninvited but inevitable, leaning against the wall. Anxiety drums, restless fingers on the table, jealousy adjusts her green eyeliner, anger smokes by the open door. I used to bolt the second inviting my feet to move instead of freeze. I step into the center of the room, heart pounding choreography it has been practicing in secret for years. One by one I ask their names out loud, tasting each syllable like a new song on my tongue. The answer not with apologies, but with maps pointing to boundaries. Cross needs ignored dreams. I love sleeping in corners. The fear that once swallowed sound now becomes a backing vocal roar, harmony sharpening the sweetness of my yes. My body remembers every time I survive what I thought would split me open beyond repair. The beat quickens as trust in myself catches up, limbs loosening, shoulders dropping armor they have worn since childhood. Winter I do not banish the darkness, I spin with it, letting it color the melody without writing. The whole score. Sweat beads in my hairline, proof that being honest cost effort, but finally give something back. When the track slows, my monsters look less monstrous, more like exhausted messengers clocking out at dawn. I thank them for the warnings and revoke their right to drive, keeping them buckled in the backseat of me as the first light slips under the curtains. I stand breathless, not cured, but finally fiercely on my own side. I watch friends cry in public, mascara rivers glistening, and feel nothing but a distant curiosity humming behind my ribs. My own tears dried up years ago, replaced by a thick glass cone that never quite lets the world and people call me strong, unbothered, unshakable, while my emotions sit locked in a basement, counting days without sunlight. I learned young that softness was a liability, that trembling lips invited teeth and open hearts attracted predators. So I built a palace of chill detachment, marble floors and echoing halls where nothing could touch me long enough to hurt. Laughter still lives here, but it never stays the night, always leaving before the questions grow too sharp. Numbness wraps me in its heavy cloak whenever danger flickers, smothering panic, erasing need with a single practice gesture. Yet in the quiet hours when no one is watching, tiny cracks appear beneath the fabric's perfect drape. Music seeps through first, a minor chord that hits wrong, and suddenly my throat tightens against invisible flooding. I change the song, scroll away, swallow twice, but the pressure behind my eyes keeps tapping, begging entrance. Numbness is not the villain then, only a tired guard who has been on shift far too long. It drops its spirit and admits it is lonely, keeping watch at a door no one is allowed to open. I sit beside it on the cold steps, listening to the muffled sobs of eyes walks, my armor loosens, not discarded but redesigned. Lighter place that flex instead of shattering with every unexpected blow. I undress in the dark, even when I am alone. Like the walls might still be taking secret pictures. Every mirror in my house knows my inventory of flaws. Cattleed in harsh lighting and cruel familiar language. I have called my body an enemy so often it stopped knocking before entering my thoughts each morning. Desire feels dangerous here, trespass on territory already claimed by diet. It adds in distant, flawless strangers when someone's hand finally traces my hip. With reverence, my first instinct is to apologize for existing under their touch. Shame floods the room before he can, turning every compliment into a lie I must politely disagree with. But there's a part of me that arches anyway. Hungry, bolder creature who remembers she belonged to herself. Under the nightlight's gentle glow, I watch her wake up inside my skin, stretching in slow, defiant movements. She does not care about angles or edits, only about sparks, about the way breath quickens between honest smiles. My insecurities hiss from the doorway, warning of judgment, humiliation, screenshots turned into cruel group chat jokes. Yeah, my pulse drums louder, a low invitation, asking what it would mean to be fully present in this body. I let a hand rest where I usually pull away, feel warmth pull instead of panic rising in alarms. The reflection in the window looks almost like a stranger, relaxed, flushed, unposed, wearing nothing but her own attention. Shame tries to shield me, but tonight it steps aside, realizing the danger has already passed. With childhood echoes, I whisper thank you to each scar, each soft place for carrying me, even when I spoke to them like enemies. Under the small electric moon, my body and I sign a fragile truce, written in sweat and slower breathing. I map every detail of your day in my head. Tiny pins in a private, invisible city of you. I tell myself it is care, devotion, a talent for remembering the things that everyone else seems to forget. But my chest tightens when plans change, when your answer lingers too long, as 3 blinking dots on the screen. conversations that have not happened yet, rehearsing lines to keep abandonment from ever finding the right door. Control curls around my pulse, counting every beat, insisting safety depends on predicting storms before they bruise the sky. I notice how I beg for certainty, yet choose lovers built entirely from soft maybes and unfinished sentences. My questions grow sharper, folding into accusations, every silence becoming a courtroom where love must defend itself again. You shift under the weight of my scrutiny, shrinking from the spotlight, I swear it's just warm attention. When you finally say you feel watched instead of wanted, a crack races through the glass tower in my brain. Inside the falling shards I find a child gripping schedules like shields, planning escape routes from every goodbye. Control was her spell, the only magic she could manage to turn chaos into patterns and pain into forecasts. I take her hand and let the calendar burn, pages curling as time loosens its chokehold on my throat. My heartbeat stumbles uncomfortable without its cage, learning a slower dance that leave room for surprise. I start asking you what you need instead of what you are doing, trusting your answers without a second translation. The freak in my chest is only a frightened strategist, finally allowed to rest without losing everything. I scroll past pictures of their perfect mornings, perfect jawlines, perfect soft lit rooms that never seem to collect any dust. My reflection warps inside the glass of my phone, stretched thin between everything I am and everything they pretend. Envy slips in quietly, barefoot, wrapping cold fingers around my throat while I count invisible flaws in fluorescent light. I call myself lazy, late, not enough before the day even has a chance to argue back. Their success becomes my indictment, every win a witness testifying against the slow, messy progress of my private life. I do not notice how I only measure upwards, never sideways, never backward to the darkness. I climb from envy, clears her throat and points to the ache, the small sharp place where my own dreams still flicker. She whispers, if you did not care, this would not burn so cleanly through your paper defenses. She drags me to the list I hid, old wishes scribbled in margins, abandoned when the world felt too loud. Each stab of comparison becomes a highlight, a stroke mark in the chapters. I am terrified to start writing for real. I take a breath and admit it. I want more, not theirs, but mine in colors I have not named. The mirror made of their eyes cracked slightly enough for my face to come back into focus. I see tired bravery, see the work, no algorithm applauds the tiny rebellions of showing up again. My envy sits down, less villain than strict teacher, tapping the pages where I keep understudying my own role. Under her gaze I save my cruelty for systems, not my skin, and turn the jealousy into jet fuel. I close the apps, open a blank screen, and let the warning finally write me something honest tonight. I hold my tongue so tightly, it leaves bite marks, perfect little crescents of almost spoken rage on tender flesh. I say it is fine, over and over, building a glittered coffin where my real feelings lay awake every time someone crosses the line I drew in shaky ink. I erase the border and call it kindness. My voice shrinks to fit inside other people's comfort, crawling under doors to apologize for existing too loudly again. The anger in me paces like a caged animal, counting the bars, remembering every door I refuse to slam. It sharpens its claws on my excuses, on the stories where I make everyone harmless except the reflection in glass. One night it finally sinks its teeth into my practiced smile, tearing the mask from ear to ear. The hurt spills out, hot and shocking, a river of no one stopping. That was never okay. My hands shake as I speak, but the ground under me stays solid, not cracking the way I always imagined. The room does not explode, the sky does not fall, only the balance of power quietly shifts. My anger sits beside me, breathing hard, no longer a beast, but an exhausted garden polishing its armor. It circles the word boundary in red, underlines my name where I wrote it small in the corner pages. I feel my blood cool from boiling to warm, still fierce but now flowing in the right direction. I learned to let my voice rise before the resentment does, to hiss instead of swallowing whole. The tease behind my smile. Unarmed at random, but to keep my softness from being devoured. Your name on their lips tastes bitter in my mouth, like lime over salt, burning where it should refresh. I laugh too loudly at nothing, trying to drown the sudden siren of wanting you entirely for myself tonight. Every like, every heart under your picture feels like fingerprints on something I was still learning how to hold. I keep refreshing the screen anyway, feeding my jealousy new oxygen, watching it bloom fluorescent under my skin. I call it ugly, call it weak, but it sits cross-legged in my chest, refusing to be exiled. It says, look at how deeply you care, how badly you crave to be chosen with both of the hands. It says, you have swallowed every time you felt replaceable. Now the words are finally cutting their way back. I imagine you with someone braver, cooler, someone whose laugh lands perfectly on the beat every single time I torture myself with scenes that never happened, and blame the ache in my stomach on some invisible poison. But what if this bright green burn is not rot, only proof that my heart still wants with wild precision? What if the monster under the bed is just my need, starving from all the nights I kept it chasing? of what I deserve, sharp and impossible to unsee again.